is the Business of Reselling podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Oman. Hey, everyone. It's episode 52 of the Business of Reselling podcast. I really hope this audio is going to work. I just spent 25 minutes recording a What Sold in February video for YouTube on StreamYard and got all the way through, even though I tested my microphone at the beginning before I hit record. It didn't record the audio. Oh, man. And I spent a bunch of time pulling up all these cool sales that I wanted to tell you guys about. And, it's not there. So I don't know. But I tested this on LE2, which is my podcast hosting platform and recording platform. I did a test episode a couple of minutes ago, and that did record the audio. So I don't know. I hope it's going to work. Anyway, here we are. It's episode 52. And I think right now, I'm going to just continue with sort of episodes related to the current economic situation. I have a lot of Canadian listeners. Our ability to resell, is affected, and then it isn't, and then it might be, and then it's not. And we have a whole host of concerns that are sometimes similar to what American resellers may be experiencing, but we have another kind of layer to it, which is I'm not going to get into, but it's weird being in Canada these days. I'll just leave it at that. So let's talk about not specifically tariffs, although that'll come up. Let's talk about the volatility that we're experiencing in the economy, however you want to define that broad term, and how it might affect all of our reselling businesses. I can tell you that our sales for March so far almost match our sales for March in 2024. And the main reason I think that's the case is because of the timing of purchasing a really big collection of really awesome things. So you guys know we just bought a crazy comic book collection. It was $10,000. It has an incredible number of key comic books in it. For people who know comic books, this is the absolute dream collection. I mean, it's stunning, and we're selling it, and we're selling it fast, and that's really helping with our overall revenue right now. Last year, right at the beginning of March, we had a big pick from some junk trucks, and that netted hundreds of pieces of jewelry, clothing, purses, shoes, just lots of really great inventory, most of which was brand new, and some very good brands as well. And that really amped up our sales last March. So I think because of the timing of this procurement, that's a big reason why our sales matched last March. But I'm starting to see a bunch of volatility. So let's just get into that a little bit. At the end of last episode, I said, hey, I really hope that I come back to the next episode and tell you guys that I did nothing. And it worked in my business. And that's basically what I'm telling you. The answer is, yeah, I did. I did pretty much nothing different in my reselling business than I would normally do. I'm really focusing on, I am focusing on efficiency. We've been spending time clearing space in the warehouse, using our shelving better, getting rid of more crappy inventory, and finding inventory in the back of the warehouse that isn't even listed, fixing that. So kind of just, working on just really tidying up the physical space, which feels really good. It gives us a sense of how much more we can jam in there if we just work with our space a little bit better, which is a project we talk about a lot and never really tackle. So we've been working on that. That feels good. I love maximizing space. It's like Maybe that's why our business is called Storage Warrior. It's like, how much can we pack in there and still be able to find everything? But anyway, we've cleared out all this shelving to help. I think it's going to help with like the comic book collection because now our listed comic books are um, we have more than the space that we've allocated for them. So we've had to expand out into different shelves and we're going to have to go around this little like U section that's at the back of the shop. So in order to make that easy and make it make sense, we had to clear out a bunch of space. So, that just kind of results in a general tidy up of inventory and I really enjoy doing that kind of work. So continuing to work on those sort of efficiency projects, the boring stuff, the things that make the business a little stronger, a little bit better, just incrementally, is kind of what we've been doing. Other than mainly posting comic books, we're trying to treat our business as usual as much as we can. And since I recorded the last podcast, we haven't had a tariff scare, a one that looked like it would specifically affect reselling. The $800 de minimis threshold remains in place. So Canadian resellers are still able to ship items to the United States if they are valued under 800 US dollars. There will be no tariffs applied regardless of the country of origin. And you can still ship things that are over the $800. Duties have always applied to those items. So there's really no change there except for the additional, I think it's 20% now, that's on Chinese made goods. But again, that would have to be for something over $800 US. So it doesn't affect the vast majority of the things that Canadians are selling to the United States. Packages are moving. I've seen a few reports that certain parts of the mail system in the US are slower than normal. Um, so it looks like there are some shakeups happening with USPS. So maybe it has to do with that, or maybe there's like some, I don't know, just maybe there's disgruntled workers or who knows what it is. If that's a real problem. I haven't actually seen it on my end. Our packages seem to be moving at the normal pace. But our sales are quite volatile. Now, we didn't see this at first, I think partly because of the big comic book collection that we're selling, but also because when the first tariff scare happened in early February, I think a lot of people did not know if or how this would affect them. I think a lot of people did not know that it was really happening. Um, Maybe they weren't aware of what tariffs were or how it might affect things. And we hadn't started to see these big slides in the stock market that we've seen over the past couple of weeks. So we didn't have a lot of volatility in our sales in February. That volatility has started this week. So around March 10th is when our slowdown started, and our sales dropped by about 50% this week. Um, they rebounded slightly on Friday. Now, look, I don't want to use 4 days as a good sample size to tell me how my store is trending. Again, this is just all theory. I haven't seen a 50% drop in sales. Like, we get slow days for sure, but I haven't seen a 50% drop in sales over more than like 1 or 2 days, like really ever. Like, since we've been doing this full time, I have not seen that. Um, and so I'm just kind of keeping my eye on it because we're seeing tons and tons of movement in the stock market, which I think is really putting some fear and panic into a lot of people, whether they're investors in the market or whether they're just sort of seeing a lot of talk about potential recessions and that has them worried. I think more and more people are kind of getting uh, aware of the possibility that parts of their lives could be directly affected by all of the things that are happening with the world economy and the US economy. So is this week's big drop representative of those changes? It might be, and it's definitely something we're going to keep our eye on. I will say that local sales this week have been pretty strong. That's pretty interesting. Up in Canada, we have a huge, support Canadian business movement going on. Um, I would argue hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Canadians are actively boycotting US products and seeking out alternatives. And I think that this could be contributing to an increase in local selling, just encouraging more people to check on Marketplace and Craigslist for some things that they need, as well as in times of stock market volatility, people want to spend less, and getting things off Marketplace is going to be generally cheaper than going to the store. So while we might see a big drop in our online sales, we might see an increase or at least steadiness in local sales if we continue to procure the right items to sell locally. So it's just something I'm kind of like cognizant of, kind of watching. And I'm not going to go so far as to say this volatility is a trend until I see it happening for a good like 3 or 4 weeks. And it would not surprise me at all if it does. So sales are volatile, just like the stock market. I mean, just to put it in perspective here, remember COVID? I know we don't want to remember COVID, but it was a thing. It happened. It was 5 years ago. And when the shutdown started at the beginning of COVID, there was a dip in the stock market, right? Like it tanked. I can't remember how far down it went, but there was a big drop and everybody was worried. Oh my God, economies are going to be ruined. People can't go out, they can't shop, they can't do these things. And then everything recovered as people bought and bought and bought and bought and bought to help themselves feel comfortable at home. People got those, like some people got a little bit of extra money from the government and they spent it on things that they wanted. People were looking for things that brought them comfort and made them feel good. They weren't able to spend as much money on experiences, so they bought more things. That was a symptom of the shutdown. And uh, honestly, it's kind of happening here, right? So we see like a drop in the stock market. And when you see a drop in the stock market, people panic and they're afraid. And then you get these big sell offs and things go down. And then the market starts to recover and everybody relaxes. And then it's like, okay, maybe I can buy stuff. Oh, and it's payday. And oh, it looks like my investments are okay. And they recovered from this tough week. I'm going to go out and buy stuff. So it's almost the same cycle as we saw during the pandemic, except it's like happening every few days, which is pretty crazy. So if we just think about like the psychology of of investors and the stock market, um, and think about how that might play into what's happening with reselling. Just think about the likelihood that more and more people are experiencing fear when they see things start to dip. Fear is a huge element, and I've actually got an article in the show notes that talks about the kinds of things that affect the psychology of the stock market. Those include fear and greed, which are put together into one category. Herd mentality, which is like when people follow the crowd and do what everyone else is doing. Um, Overconfidence bias. So when things are up, investors tend to like overestimate their own ability to do the right thing, and invest smartly. And then loss aversion. So this is people just prioritizing avoiding loss. So that means like selling off your stocks when they drop 5 or 6% to avoid further losses, that kind of thing. Anyway, the article is in the show notes. It's from Southern New Hampshire University. If you're interested in checking that out further. But anyway, we see a lot of fear happening right now in the stock market, and that's probably going to affect reselling. So stocks go down, people worry, they panic, and they sell off, and they're like, I'm not going to buy anything. Like, this is crazy. Like, I'm selling my stocks and I don't want to invest. I'm withdrawing. Like, I don't want to spend a lot of money because I'm scared. I don't want to lose it. And so our sales go down, right? Like no one wants to buy their collectibles or their just little trinkets or whatever because people are suddenly afraid. But then the market starts to go up and everyone breathes a sigh of relief. And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to go shopping now because I'm feeling a little bit better. Or going shopping will make me feel a little bit better. And so they come onto eBay or whatever platform and they start buying things that they want again. Um, at the same time, you may also have people whose mindset is buy when the price is low. So they may be investing in speculative assets like collectibles, so like comic books, things that over time should increase in value as they become more rare. So people with money to invest might go for these items right now if they see the people who have them freaking out and selling them off, right? So it's like buying the dip. So maybe people are looking at, you know, resellers who have interesting collectibles and purchasing those now while there is some fear and um, while the market is kind of overall dropping. And if they don't trust the stock market because it's so volatile, maybe they figure now is the time to invest in a physical asset. So this could have a positive effect on reselling, but it all depends on what you're selling. Um, so, just thinking about the sort of the broader collective mindset of people who might be coming into your store, like, what do you think their mentality is right now? Are these people likely to come to you for because you have like really cool collectibles at really low prices? Do you sell lots of home goods and electronics and you're able to sell those at great prices compared to retail? Maybe you could spin this into something positive. Um, Regardless, though, of what you're selling, I think that I am expecting a lot of volatility for some time. And um, it kind of honestly it reinforces the idea that I've been putting into the podcast the last couple of weeks, that keeping our businesses operating status quo while refining our processes on the inside is probably the best choice. So just have a plan B ready if you need it, something that you can pivot to in case things completely tank. But otherwise, just keep going. It's really the way that we should all be operating our businesses anyway. And there isn't a reason right now to do anything different, um, other than, kind of weather the storm. So I'm curious what you think. And I mean, it's such a small sample size to ask my audience, like, how are your sales? Like, does it compare to my sales? Like, it's a little bit of confirmation bias. It feels like I'm looking for like people to agree with me on volatile sales, but I'm genuinely curious if you're experiencing the same thing. If you are, I expect that it's probably extremely short term. So I'm curious if it's something that you're keeping an eye on, if you're also expecting the same volatility, or if you think that everything's going to go back to normal soon. Let me know in the comments. I would love to have a discussion about this. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast anywhere you get your podcast. Just go to businessofreselling.com. Sorry. And if you want, on youtube.com/@Storage Warrior podcast, you can also catch all of the episodes there, plus occasional videos, which if I can ever get my StreamYard to record audio again, I'll be able to do more of those videos anyway. Don't forget, nothing's changed and we're always buying. Hook us up with a great pick in Western Canada and you will receive a gift. That's all for today, folks. I really hope this audio worked, and we will see you next time with hopefully something a little less crazy. Bye.